Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting this 24th of September, our regular meeting of the Council. To begin with, dear colleagues, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. Are there any conflicts of interest with these few items we have this evening? I think what's most interesting tonight are provincial elections, and we have no conflicts. No conflicts of interest. So I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The agenda is accepted as presented. Number 7, presentations, inquiries, and petitions. With respect to the RCMP, I saw this afternoon that Superintendent Crystal told me that there would be nobody here to represent them tonight, as we can see. However, if there were interventions on the part of the council members, he would like to hear about it as soon as possible in order to take action if need be. If you have any questions for the RCMP, please ask them now. Councillor Thibodeau, thank you, Your Worship. Some citizens on Chartersville Road complain about the speed between Pascal and upwards, between Bonaventure and Pascal. There's a lot of speeding. I heard complaints as well, maybe from the same person. I've heard it from two people. One of them is probably the same person, I'm sure. I know there's a petition coming. I heard that one person is going door to door. So I think we'll hear about it soon. I already mentioned it to council that speeding on Chartersville, of course, when we have a road like from Admirault to Lakeburn, it's about 3.4 kilometers. It's very straight. There's only one stop at Pascal. So, of course, cars will be speeding. There are two stops on Thomas and Pascal. In the past, we had a stop sign at Fortune Street, but for some reason it was removed. I wasn't on the council then, but at that time it was negotiated for signal lights at the bottom of Chartersville. But that's another story. So we will take note of this and we shall advise. Mr. Cormier, I have a request from a citizen on Thomas Street that cars are speeding. And I've had a request to install a sign, an electronic sign that indicates the speed. Thank you. I think it's on the marsh right now. Mr. Brideau, you're giving me the finger. Why? Your light isn't going on. Mine is lit. Councillor Brideau, thank you, Your Worship. It's not a question. people on Gaspé Street, Thibodeau and Gould, are complaining about speeding as well. They're not leaving me alone with that. The other question they asked me a lot, the modified cars that are making a lot of noise. We have small cars with what I call bumblebees attached to the mufflers that makes a lot of noise when they drive down the street. Is it only in my area, or is it everywhere that there are loud bees everywhere? I'm mentioning this because I think we're going to see more and more of this. The youth are back at school. They've all got these modified cars and motorbikes too that make a lot of noise. We'll mention this to the RCMP. Mr. Simon, I've also received plans on Benelli Street where people aren't stopping, and it's dangerous for children who are waiting for the school bus, so we'll mention that to the RCMP as well. I'll do that this week. Nobody else? No? Then we'll go to presentations. I have a small presentation to make. Oh, I thought this was shut off. I'm sorry. Done. I would like to ask Chief Conrad Landry to come ahead, and I want to present to him what is essentially a photograph of a stamp that Post Canada issued this year to recognize all first responders, including firefighters. There was a station on St. George, and maybe there was communication problems, and you weren't there, but I received it in your name, so I want to present it to you now. All the cities were represented except for one. Riverview was there. The next item is questions by members of the public. No questions from our vast public this evening. Number 9, adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting held on September 10th, moved by Councillor Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Alain. For the question? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Minutes are adopted. Next item, motions, memorandums, and nominations. 10.1, expansion Dieppe. Mr. Simon, as you know, on Ruffin Street, there's an owner of a lot of 18 acres. It was supposed to be for a big development, but it should be divided to encourage development. There were studies made. We have different options. So we recommend to choose option 5 that you have in your documents because it's the shortest street. Therefore, development will cost less, as well as maintenance, and the surface to develop is greater. There's more productivity, and it would help to increase the operations center. And we could sell 2 lots that are already accessible. So we recommend to accept number 5 business plan and to sell these lots and start the process. Thank you. For the reading of the resolution, Madame Le Boutier. The council accepted in principle the business plan entitled Business Plan Ruffin Street Business and Technology Park for the development of a 44-acre site located at the end of Ruffin Street and having PID 703688584. Select option number 5 as the preferred option presented in said business plan prepared by Crandall Engineering Ltd. Dated January 18th, 2018. Except to immediately put up for sale lots 2 and 14 identified in option number 5 of said business plan, except to initiate the subdivision process for the creation of a new street and identify the City of Dieppe's preferred funding model for this option. I so move. Moved by Councillor Boutier, seconded by Councillor Godet. For the question, Mr. Lebois. Thank you. This zonage is adequate for this development? So we have to just consider the subdivision? The zonage, the zoning was okay? Yes. Yes. It was done when those lots were bought in 2003 or 4. Mr. Sima, no, it's okay. Any other questions? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Moved as presented. Item number 10.2.1, 2019-2023 Municipal Designated Highway Program. Mr. Simard, please. Your Worship, this is for 5 years. For the Municipal Designated Highway Program for the Department of Infrastructure and Transportation, New-Brunswick. So these are highways that are to be prioritized from 2019 to 2023, and we have preservation, conservation of the streets, resurfacing, and so we would like to have these projects accepted. For the reading of the resolution, Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Your Worship. The Council approved the City of Dieppe's priority projects under the Municipal Designated Highway Program for the 2019 to 2023 period as outlined below. 2019, asphalt preservation, $125,000. Crack sealing, Acadie Avenue, Amiro Street, from Alain Gillette Street to Chartersville Road, except for a section in Marsh. Microsurfacing, Dieppe Boulevard, from Champlain Street to Route 15. Financing source, City of Dieppe, $56,000. New-Brunswick Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, $69,000. 2020, Mill and Pave, Champlain Street, $1,200,000. From the western city limits to Acadie Avenue. Financing source, City of Dieppe, $537,600. New Brunswick Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, $662,400. Asphalt preservation, crack sealing, $200,000. Champlain Street from Acadie Avenue to Midland Drive. Microsurfacing, Acadie Avenue, Amiro Street, from Alain Gillette Street to Chartersville Road, except for a section in Marsh. Financing source, City of Dieppe, $89,600. New-Brunswick Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, $110,400. 2021, asphalt preservation, $700,000. Crack sealing, Amiro Street, section in Marsh and section from Chartersville Road to Melanson Road. Microsurfacing, Champlain Street from Acadie Avenue to Midland Drive. Financing source, City of Dieppe, $313,600. New Brunswick Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, $386,400. 2022, asphalt preservation, $600,000. Microsurfacing, Amiro Street, section in Marsh and section from Chartersville Road to Melanson. Financing source, City of Dieppe, $268,800. New Brunswick Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, $331,200. 2023, mill and pave Champlain Street, $1,500,000 from Dieppe Boulevard to Corvette Street. Financing source, City of Dieppe, $672,000. New Brunswick Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, $828,000. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Mrs. Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Cormier for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution is carried as presented. Next item, number 11, municipal bylaws. We have a new bylaw relating to dog control. Mr. Simard, do you have something to add to this? This is first and second reading by title. It's relating to the Local Governments Act that had some amendments regarding dogs. Now we're talking about vaccination as well. This is a municipal responsibility. We have amendments. We have a second version that you have here. The amendments are very minimal. We had a problem here in Dieppe. Somebody was keeping a dog that the leash was so long that the dog went to the neighbors. So now we have to shorten the length of the leash to prevent this. Also, vaccination and revaccination is mentioned as well, every 2 or 3 years by a veterinarian. So those are the amendments to this bylaw. Everything's the same with respect to the license and for dog control too. For the officer, it's the same. Nothing's changed. It's good to review this periodically because we also have a project for a doggy park, and there are links that could be made with some of these obligations. It's noted. Thank you. So, for the first reading by title only, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw number S6, 2018, a bylaw relating to dog control. I so move as first reading by title only. First reading moved and seconded by Councillor Thibault. You have a question, Mr. Godet? No. For the licenses or the permits, I must say that the dog should have a chip and a tag's not necessary. Even though there's a microchip, then it should have a license anyway. There's only one registration for the life of the dog. It's not annual. The problem is that in the documentation, we say that it should be an attestation saying that there's a rabies vaccination. It lasts how long? 2 years? 2 or 3 years. So there's nothing that says that we have to check to see if that dog has been revaccinated. Before that, when we got the tag, you had to show the documentation that the dog had been vaccinated against rabies. And those that have microchips, there's no way of knowing. The bylaw says that the owners of the dogs have to give that information. There's work to be done internally, and there will be a possibility to do recalls, so we're working on that internally. Why would we, as beforehand, dogs had to be registered annually? Why do we want to eliminate these revenues, as small as they may be? I'm asking that question. We did that, not this version, but the last version of the bylaw. It diminished the cost. It was to increase the registration of dogs and to encourage people to put microchips in their dogs, because it saves a lot of time. When we find lost dogs, we can access the register quickly. And veterinarians propose to clients that they should have microchips. So I think we have 370 dogs already who have microchips, and there were very few beforehand. So when we find a dog that's lost with a microchip, it's really quick to find the owner. But if you see a dog on the street, this is my reasoning. If I see a dog on the street, I don't know if it has a microchip or not. But if it's wearing a tag, the argument being that when we were talking about a dog park, we thought there would be about 3,000 dogs in the town of Dieppe. But if there are only 387 that are registered, we haven't improved the situation with dog control. I'm not going 40 years behind now, just 2 years ago. If dogs are registered, if the owners come every year, there's a potential revenue that could help finance the dog park. So that's my reasoning. It seems that right now we're not being served very well by microchips. In fact, this 387 dogs are those that are microchipped. We're not talking about those that are registered. Before we had around 600 registered, and I think we have about 800 or 900 now. Oh, well, that's a progress, yes, significant. A dog that doesn't have a tag is alone, then we should pick him up, and then there would be revenues with the dog park as well. And we have to keep checking as well. There might be a solution. There's an element here. People can get a tag for a couple dollars rather than arbitrary or a choice for them. Perhaps we could force people to get this tag, because if the dog is wearing the tag, then we know exactly who the dog belongs to. It's not a lost dog or a dog from another community. Yes, but usually a dog should be on a leash with its owner. If the dog is alone, the practice is to call us and we'll pick up the dog, because it's a lost dog. I will check to see if there's a microchip. Do we intend to? I don't know if I understand your question. If somebody is with a dog and there's no tag on the dog, the bylaw officer checks the dog and there's no tag. How do we know if it's registered? How can he check? If the dog has a microchip, we have a tool that can read it. It's usually on the shoulders of the dog, but sometimes we've seen a dog where it went down towards its bum. We've seen that. We have that in the office here. We have all dog stories tonight. For questions? No questions? All those in favor that we accept first reading, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Bylaw S6 2018 is accepted in first reading, so we'll proceed to second reading. Bylaw number S6 2018, a bylaw relating to dog control. I so move. Second reading by title only. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau for the question. All those in favor of bylaw number S6 2018 signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. S6 is accepted by second reading. Item number 12, notice of motion. No notices were received. Number 13, inquiries and announcements by members of council. I think somebody will remind me who to start with. Mr. Alain, Councillor Alain. Your Worship, I would like to thank the work of the first line respondents. There was a person had a cardiac arrest on the golf course, and when the first responders arrived, they were professional. We had ambulances and firefighters came as well. I want to congratulate their work and dedication to the job. Yesterday, our firefighters made me very proud. I want to mention, Your Worship, the work is not easy in our community. Thank you, Mr. Alain. Mrs. Arsenault, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention that September 16th, on Sunday, I went to the Veterans Cenotaph in Dieppe. There was a ceremony for the war in England at Parc Gilles Cormier. It was a good celebration, respectful, and I want to thank everybody who assisted. Thank you. Mr. Cormier was a war prisoner and recognized for that war. Councillor Thibodeau, thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to mention tonight. Thank you. Madame Le Boutillier. I have nothing for this evening. Thank you. Mr. Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. A while ago, I mentioned the speeding and the noise in the streets. The day before yesterday, one of our residents in Dieppe told me about an incident that happened to her respecting sharing of the street with cyclists. A cyclist passed and caught against her mirror and broke it. He turned around, looked at her, And this lady was stopped. And by construction, and she couldn't go ahead. She tried to see who the cyclist was, and he was already gone. And she suggested that why, if we have to share the street with cyclists, why does the city or the province does not encourage them to have a license plate so she could have seen? I called the RCMP, she said, but how can she recognize a cyclist with a helmet on? The guy left really quickly. Why couldn't we give cyclists licenses so we could identify them in some way? I would like to share this with my fellow councillors. This lady had to pay to have her side mirror repaired. I think Mr. Simard took note of this. We know that there are jurisdictions where where people have to register their bicycles. I don't know how practical it is, however. I will ask administration to think about this. Maybe microchips for that as well? No? I'm sorry, I turned your mic off. Councillor Cormier, nothing tonight, Your Worship. Councillor Leblanc, thank you, Your Worship. I have a comment. I would like to encourage residents of Dieppe to vote. For those who haven't done it yet, we have until 8 p.m. to do so. And I'd like to wish good luck to all the candidates for the elections tonight. We'll have the results soon. Thank you. Councillor Godet. Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 points tonight. With respect to transportation, firstly, we had a meeting of the Governance Committee, and we discussed the new policy that we're developing that would allow organizations that are planning events in our 3 communities to have passes, day passes, during their conference or event. And it would be by about 100 delegates, and if the number would be greater, then the passes would be cheaper. So with 200 delegates, we could give them a pass at $2, and they could use the bus all day long. The second point is that during the meeting on May 8th, we talked about new projects respecting buses. And one of the recommendations or the resolutions approved unanimously by Council was to look at the possibility of creating a pilot project for 4 months. Very soon, that would make the bus 93 go farther up to Chartersville. And since then, I heard nothing about that. I asked a question to administration, and I didn't get a very good answer. The resolution was not clear. They were trying to study it. And then I received an email that nothing would be done until the spring 2019. We've already approved the resolution. That was 6 months ago. We should have had some discussion on it because Kodiak changes its schedule 3 times by a year. We missed the first one. We'll probably miss the second one. I would like at the next meeting that the people responsible for this file could explain to us what is happening so that we can deal with this resolution, because people are waiting for this project to take place. Thank you. I would like to underline that the week of 1st to 7th of October 2018 will be the 8th edition of the well-being in New Brunswick. We are all conscious of the importance of well-being, exercise, eating well to nourish our body with exercise. I just wanted to mention this well-being week. I believe all members of council are conscious of this, and we want to encourage our citizens as well. We know the statistics on health and the need to take care of our health. As it was mentioned by Councillor Leblanc, I believe that we must recognize people who offer their services. As members of the Legislative Assembly who are patiently waiting for results, we know at City Council that sometimes this work can be very ungrateful, and we must respect all people that offer their services for the good of our citizens. Good luck to all, and we shall see the results that should be available between now and an hour from now. So good evening, everybody, and stay tuned.